Here with my very good friend Mohammed
Magdi is back.
How you doing, buddy?
All good, all good.
Before we get started, I just want to say we've just launched the Patreon. Patreon's just been going for a little while now.
Oh, yeah.
You can check it out, patreon.com/HoHoPod. How good are the episodes on there? I think
They're not like the free crap we put up there.
that's where we can say the stuff that we're not that comfortable putting out in the public sphere. So check it out. The Patreon is we are 8 subscribers away from fully covering our overhead. So if you can jump on there, it makes a big difference, and you're going to love the content that we're putting on there. If you want to find me online, it's at Andy Curtin on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Where do we find you,
Mohammed Magdi at the other Mohammed on Instagram, at the other Mohammed on Patreon, and Twitter and Facebook, Mohammed Magdi.
Now, our guest today is
very excited.
The very cool Bobsy Gaia. Bobsy, how you doing, man?
Awesome, man. It's good to be here.
So we got you on today because you are, among many things, the founder of Manna, which is, how do I describe Manna? Plant-based restaurant chain?
Yeah.
Changing the world?
Yeah, it's a change maker, essentially. It inspires change, but we are fast, slow food. We are plant-based. And perhaps more importantly for future generations is we are zero waste, zero plastic, and zero food waste.
So what is fast, slow food exactly for the uninformed?
Well, we all know what fast food is, right? Yeah. But perhaps we haven't stopped to think what fast, slow food might be. Essentially, the service is fast. That's the only likeness, really. Slow food is what you might call as real food.
Right.
Wholesome food, unprocessed, naturally grown, organic preferably, homemade, nutritious. So we are fast food of that kind. And more importantly, and most importantly for me, essentially as a founder, is that we've never used plastic in almost the 10 years we've been operating.
Wow. That's crazy.
And we are big on delivery. We're top of the list on the delivery platforms. We were designed for delivery from the beginning, hence the word fast, slow food.
You know, it's so crazy the use of plastic in this city. We just had Christmas, and my wife bought a doll for my daughter. It was astounding the amount of plastic.
It's just layers and layers.
So it was a plastic ball with a doll inside. On the outside of the plastic ball was 4 layers of plastic.
Yeah.
You know how you can buy something and you're like, oh, it's got a plastic film.
Yeah.
It had 4 layers of plastic on the outside of it. Then the ball was plastic. Then each individual part of the doll was wrapped in plastic, a plastic doll. Yeah. And inside some of those parts was more plastic.
Ugh.
I thought it was a joke.
Yeah. Where does the name Manna come from?
Ma is the root of the word mother in all languages. Yeah. Whether it's Arabic, French, Australian, English.
Australian. Are they two separate things?
They are. But mana also means life force, chi in the Polynesian languages, blessing. So if you go to Hawaii or New Zealand.
Is that connected to Chinese chi?
Yes, so chi as in life force chi, mana. And when I first used the name in the context for Mana, the restaurants we know today, it was sacred food that was sacred, because we specialize in flatbreads. That's what we do. And manna appears in the Bible as sacred food or food from heaven. No one knows exactly what it was. I always believed it was magic mushrooms, but it may well have been. But so manna essentially means food is sacred food. And in today's context of almost 1 billion people going to bed hungry every night, food has never been more sacred. The concept of wasting food is sacrilege. And you're talking about plastic. I truly believe within 10 years, single-use plastic will be banned. Virgin plastic will be banned.
I hope so.
There's so much plastic on the planet today.
Virgin plastic we ban. We'll just have whore plastic.
Yeah, whichever way you look at it. But there's so much plastic floating in the world today that we just have to recycle it and reuse it.
How brutal is it watching those videos?
Ugh. Wow, China has committed to something like 2030 or 2040. They want to eradicate all single-use plastic. So that's pretty soon.
It is.
For a country like China, because we both lived in China for a long time.
They were so bad with trash for a really long time. Actually, here's a funny anecdote. So during the Beijing Olympics, 2018, right? So in China, they have these illegal...
2008.
2008.
Yeah.
They have these illegal recyclers, right? They'll grab anything off the street and they get some money for it. The city felt that the presence of them looked ugly, so they banned them. And then the trash started piling up everywhere. They didn't realize they were the ones removing the trash.
Yeah.
Like how?
Well, right before we left Shanghai, they started implementing recycling.
Huge change.
Yeah, huge change.
It was crazy. The change was like, so they went from you just dump your trash anywhere to you get fined if you put it in the wrong bin.
Yeah.
You have to use your face at a lot of places to scan to get the bin open in your compound.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's awesome, and then it's also like, you know,
it's a little scary.
Every time China uses facial recognition, you're just like,
Oh yeah, there's a dark side as well, but the beauty about China is they can implement change quickly.
Astounding.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff like
Enviable,
that. In
really
the last
enviable.
couple of years, especially like smoking.
Yeah.
They were like, you'll never ban smoking.
Yeah.
Gone overnight. Fireworks gone overnight.
Yeah.
Which is incredible because like you think like.
It's a big part of the Chinese like celebration culture.
Yeah.
And you're just gone.
It was just gone.
Yeah.
Like, it went from-
Styrofoam? Has styrofoam gone? Do you still see styrofoam?
not a lot.
Not a whole
Yeah.
lot.
The
No.
only place you'd see it, I feel, is like maybe like the fresh food markets.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
then also, you know, like a small market
Yeah.
where they're just...
Wet market, basically.
Wet market,
Yeah.
yeah. And then also the guys, the trash collectors.
There's this
There'll be the
amazing
styrofoam
story of scientists, Chinese and international, looking at satellite images of China from space, and they could see all these white lines crisscrossing the country. And at the first glance, they didn't understand what it was. And a second glance and a closer inspection, they realized they were railway tracks. And the white lines were styrofoam being thrown out of trains.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my.
Because everything
You
was
can
served
see it
in
from
styrofoam
space.
lunchboxes, cups.
Yeah.
So when they finished eating, it was going out of the window.
So,
And overnight, they banned styrofoam on trains.
I
Yeah,
don't
you
ever
cannot see
recall-
it on
I don't ever
trains.
recall seeing styrofoam
No.
on trains.
Yeah.
But you know, you go to Hong Kong, you go to other places, and it's still around, believe it or not. So really, I believe 2020 this year is waking us up en masse. If we don't wake up now, during COVID, shame on us. We have to wake up and realize that we only have one planet, and to continue with business as usual
Yeah.
is killing our future, is killing our children. We're both parents. It's taken something as tragic as COVID-19 to halt us in our tracks and wake us up and go, what that beep, beep, beep are we doing to our planet?
Yeah.
But I think sometimes you need a catalyst that is as severe as the problem to understand it.
Yeah.
You know, like you can't just give someone a nudge to understand something. Yeah, you know, say someone, maybe an individual, but
Yeah.
people in general to understand something as severe as taking responsibility for, you know, how we're just secretly
Sadly.
fucking everything up.
Sadly.
Yeah.
So let's take a little step back though. So
Yeah, we were just speaking Arabic before the recording, and I happened to realize you're from Lebanon. When did you leave? Tell us about your background in Lebanon a bit.
So you're born in Lebanon, right?
Born and raised.
Yeah.
How did your parents end up in Lebanon?
Well, my father was a spy, but that's another story.
Was he really?
Nice.
love it.
4.
Well, he's British, right?
Okay.
MI5?
Yeah.
MI6,
7?
mate.
Yeah.
Come on. MI5.
Peasants in MI5.
MI5, but you know, for the beginners.
Leave it in. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, putting joking aside,
Yeah.
born and raised in Beirut. I was 10 when the Lebanese civil war started.
Yeah.
I started carrying a gun at the age of 10 and a half, 11. I experienced all my teenage years as a war child, and I left Lebanon to go back to England, the motherland, at the age of 19.
Your mom is British as well.
Both my parents are English.
Yeah.
My father's father was fully Lebanese,
Right.
but he lived in England and married an English woman. So my father, who's technically half Lebanese, was
Yeah.
born and raised in England.
Right.
But I'm more Lebanese than anyone else in the family because I was born and raised in
Right.
Lebanon.
Yeah.
So we didn't go to expat schools. We went to, very good
Local,
Lebanese
yeah.
schools, speaking Arabic on the streets,
Yeah.
playing with Lebanese kids. It was only when I was a teenager that I realized I looked differently.
Yeah.
Up until then, I had no idea I looked differently.
I saw people in Lebanon who kind of look like you.
Lebanese and Jewish people in that part of the Levant, they tend to be a mixture of Crusaders and Phoenicians and older,
There's a lot of European-looking
Indian influence. Yeah, totally.
And do you have much of a connection with Lebanon today still?
I do. Daddy still lives there, believe it or not. And my childhood friends, some of them are still there.
You can't leave now that you're ratting him out for being a spy on every frigging podcast you do.
Oh, he's well retired now. He's done his bit.
Yeah.
He was a good spy. He never did anything.
I would dedicate the rest of this podcast just to his dad's story.
Yeah.
By the way. That's awesome.
Oh, man. Yeah, there's got to be a lot
Okay, so one question about your dad. When did you find out that he was a spy? Did you know from the beginning?
Well, we don't know for sure, you see.
All right. Okay.
You never know.
Nice.
True to his trade.
You're like, hey, Dad, you order a lot of dry martinis. I'm going to say too many. So did you come to Hong Kong from Beirut?
No, after Beirut, I moved to England for almost 4 years. Got a phone call from my childhood friend.
And what was that? That was university?
Supposedly, but I never made it that far. Yeah. The idea of going back to England, the motherland, was to go and get a higher education. It turns out that I'm the only one in the family who never went to uni. So I entered art college and then dropped out, and I was too eager to get my hi-fi and my Wi-Fi and my records and my fashion and music are my background. So I collected a lot of music and a lot of fashion, and I wanted my motorbike and I wanted to buy my own apartment. And to do that, you can't be a student. Right. So I started working in Tesco's as a meat packer, believe it or not. Mm-hmm. And back then in the 80s in England...
A lot of plastic.
A lot of plastic, like cling film, and a lot of meats as well.
Yeah.
My shift would start at 6 a.m. and I was surrounded by butchers, and my job was to pack the meat, display it on the shelving on the floor, and enter the cold rooms and clean the cold rooms, and the blood would congeal with cold and ice, and terrible job, but I knew no difference. However, that job gave me a mortgage to buy a beautiful apartment, a motorbike, the best progressive rock collection of vinyls, and all the clothing I needed.
All of that from the meatpacking job.
Believe it or not.
How long have you done this job for?
2 years.
Wow.
And did you... So you describe yourself as a hippie now, right?
Yeah, hippie means hip and happy at the same time.
How were you... Was that present in your life at that point?
No.
Okay, so that change came after.
Correct.
Imagine the hippie working in the meatpacking shop.
Yeah, it wouldn't go down well.
Getting one with the hanging pigs.
Yeah.
So did you come to Hong Kong from England?
No, I went to Thailand and lived in Thailand, and
I'm guessing that's where you found it.
Mm-hmm.
Almost.
Those
almost.
The
so
Thailand shakes.
The elephant pens.
Yeah, my Bangkok days, that's spelled D-A-Z-E.
Yeah.
Were awesome, beautiful.
What was the Asia connection? Like, why did you come to Asia?
Well, my childhood friend Roger called me up, said, Bobsy, can you meet me in Bangkok? I said, where's Bangkok? He said, Thailand.
Never mind.
I said, where's Thailand? He said, Siam. I said, okay, Siam. Whoa, because my uncle...
Speaking to a British person.
My uncle and my grandfather lived in the Far East in the Philippines during the war, and they were traders and merchants in cloth and textile, and so the notion of the Far East was always in the ether. And I said, sure, I'll meet you there, and then remember running to the... Well, his business partner had fallen down and had a motorbike accident and was in hospital, so he needed someone to go with him.
Okay.
And I said I'd love to, and to cut the long story short, I meet him in Bangkok, and for 1 month I shadow him as an entrepreneur.
Right.
He was in the jewelry business, and he was going to all these factories and waking up anytime he wanted, and taking days off, and in the exotic land of Thailand in the 80s.
Jewish guy?
No, Lebanese,
right, yeah.
So I fell in love with the concept of entrepreneurship.
Right.
I'm like, damn, I want to be an entrepreneur, but I don't like jewelry. I love fashion. So the idea came that, okay, let's not go back to England anymore. Let's not look at this as a 1 month holiday in Bangkok, and then go with him back to Beirut. So instead of flying back to London, I flew to Beirut, gave my father the biggest shock in his life because he wasn't expecting a knock on the door because Bobsy is supposed to be in university in England.
Right.
And here he is knocking on my door in Beirut saying,
he answers
hello.
it with a gun, assuming it's...
Well, yeah, of
The
course.
MI5.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You've been downgraded.
Yeah.
You always carried a gun in those days, you know, whether you were MI5 or MI whatever, everyone carried a gun.
Yeah.
So I started a fashion company in Beirut, based in Beirut, manufacturing in Bangkok.
Was
And
your
that was
dad
the Bangkok
welcoming
Beirut
to your step out of university and into the entrepreneurship?
Daddy, bless him, is a great human being, and he was totally cool with whatever. You know, if you're happy, great. So that's how my journey started, and it was Bangkok, Beirut for many years. In the fashion world, doing our own fashion business, and traveling to Europe, and
So
it was
were
wonderful.
you designing the clothes? Or?
I was in the beginning. I didn't have the courage, but after one collection of someone else designing, I was I can do a better job than that.
I
So
knew
yeah,
it. That's how so many people start.
Yeah.
They're like,
I know.
I don't know if I'm good, but I'm definitely better than that guy.
Then the guy I am paying
And
to do
he's
the
doing
thing.
it.
Yeah.
That's like 100% of people that start stand-up.
Yeah.
It just takes one show where they watch someone and they're like, oh, I'm better than that guy.
Yeah.
I can try that. So how did you, what brought the shift from Bangkok to Hong Kong?
So 1989 comes along, and the Berlin Wall collapses. The Cold War ends.
Tiananmen Square.
Tiananmen Square, yeah. See, there was people power all over the world, including in China, with the students standing up, and everywhere else there was success, immediate success. The Cold War ending, Berlin Wall coming down, apartheid ending, Nelson Mandela being freed, the LGBT movement exploding, Amnesty International exploding on the scene, Greenpeace, you name it.
Yeah.
People marching on the streets of London and Paris to demonstrate against the burning of the Amazonian rainforest. Well, what's the Amazonian rainforest got to do with Europeans? So there was this massive people awakening, and you could see it in the graffiti on the streets, in the fashion wear, in the music. If you listen to the music in late 80s, early 90s, it was extremely positive and upbeat. And I just shifted along with that. To cut a long story short, we bankrupted our first fashion company. I find myself in Bangkok without a penny to my name, unable to pay my rent, not knowing what to do. But at the same time, the world was spinning and changing around me, and I was paying attention to these changes. I could hear it in the hip-hop songs. I could see it in the graffiti on the streets. I could see it in the magazines. I could feel it. Beirut, the war ended in Lebanon, like that. Boom, 1990.
Yeah.
Nicaragua, San Salvador, everywhere, all these wars stopped because the Russians and Americans made peace.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, wait a minute. What were the purpose of these wars?
They were just proxy wars.
And why are all these people marching in London to protect the rainforest? And all of that change, and I was privy to it. I was in the right place at the right time. And I went, oh my God, we are killing our planet.
Yeah.
We only have one planet. And I'm in the fashion world. Cotton? The amount of water that's wasted to produce cotton, the dyeing in the textile industry, the heavy metals. I can't be part of this. So I started to look into environmentally friendly fashion. We didn't have the word ecology back then, or organic or sustainable. It wasn't part of the vocabulary. We used the word environmentally friendly. And so I started to build an eco-friendly fashion company and haven't looked back since. So my journey begins 30 years ago in 1989.
That's the year I was born.
And that's what brought me to Hong Kong. Sorry.
That's the year I was born,
His
1989.
journey started then as well. Actually.
Well, amazing.
This awakening where he realized there is a world.
So welcome, brother.
Thank you.
You're a co-change maker.
Yeah. Well, I like to think.
Yeah, indeed. So
why
that's how my journey began.
Why Hong Kong?
It's my destiny.
But how did that happen? I mean, I understand the feeling of it, but what brought it into your mind?
Well, how do I know it was my destiny? Because it felt right from day one.
But why? You just threw a dot at the map, or you just looked at the
So you want to go cerebral, do you?
No, I just want to know why.
You want the masculine answer. Okay. I don't know. I had no family, no job. The connection was my fashion. We were selling our designs from Bangkok to Hong Kong.
Okay.
We were displayed in Cebu, which is a beautiful Japanese store, was a beautiful Japanese store in Pacific Place, no longer exists.
Okay.
It was the biggest prize you could get in Hong Kong. So we had our collections inside Cebu. And I flew down to Hong Kong twice to meet buyers. And each time I would come having a British passport. Comparing how the chaos of Bangkok to the beauty of Hong Kong was just unimaginable.
Really?
The beautiful banyan trees.
I would have thought back then it was maybe a bit... reading about what it was like in the 70s and stuff, I would have thought it was maybe dirty. Or,
Hong Kong?
Yeah.
Oh, it was beautiful. The tram, the MTR.
So that was early
every
90s,
3 minutes, an MTR, the cleanest.
back then.
Yeah. This is 1992.
Yeah, early 90s.
This is 92. I came in November the 5th, 1992. The trams, the beautiful trams, the beautiful trees we have in the city, the banyan trees coming out of the granite walls. The beautiful parks, Hong Kong Park, the MTR, the taxis with meters, so you didn't have to spend 20 minutes hassling with the taxi driver to take you up the road.
Oh my God! Compared to Bangkok,
so comparing Bangkok in 1990,
would have been heaven.
to
Did
Hong
they
Kong
have tuk-tuks in Bangkok then as well?
Oh yeah.
Oh man,
the best. we love the tuk-tuks, but
I'll take a tuk-tuk.
As the pollution got worse and worse, and as you became aware of something called pollution, your ride in the tuk-tuk could never be the same again.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the beauty of awareness. And that mantra on the wall says, what does it say?
The most radical act of any generation is to become aware.
Yeah.
You need to think about that one.
Yeah,
So
I'm just thinking about how many friends I have that lack self-awareness.
But any historical change.
Oh man, we can both.
You just sit them down here
Yeah.
and be like, just tell me what you think that says.
Indeed.
What does that mean to you?
Yeah. What do you think? He's like, I don't know.
Person who keeps talking about himself?
Yeah. Oh man.
So any historical change of significance has come with awareness.
I mean, this I understand. You get to a city and you're like,
This is my place.
this has got my beat.
Yeah.
There's something drawing me here. I mean, I definitely, when Shanghai 2009, I was just like, I felt like I was at the center of the universe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, man, this is where all the action has been happening. And it is happening right now. I don't think that's
Except it was happening in Hong Kong more.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a pretty interesting time, though, because 2010 was the World Expo, and the city was visibly changing from day to day. You could get on the MTR or the metro there and go past the map. They were building the metro faster than they were putting the maps up in the metro.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That was surreal. That's really just like, this is just... It's like being in a flower as it's like opening up or something. And I don't think it's like that anymore.
Shanghai is a beautiful city. My wife's Shanghainese, so...
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So you got your hands full.
Yeah. She's the boss. So, whenever I visit Shanghai, it's a beautiful city. I mean...
When was the last time you were there?
2 years ago.
Yeah, great.
Okay,
So
so
that's
that's
shit now.
Yeah, it's not that great right now.
It's all gone
We
down.
both left last summer, like not this year, last year, summer 2019.
It changed in
Okay.
2018
Yeah.
significantly for the worst.
Yeah.
So going back to Hong Kong though, so you came out here, and I know your story when you initially arrived. You didn't have money for the deposit of a house. How did you tackle that problem?
Man, that was a mountain. That was like climbing Everest. How on earth can you get, say your rent's 11,000, which was in Discovery Bay.
Cool. That's
Wow.
like
If I was to live in Discovery Bay back then, the cheapest apartment I could find was 11,000. This is 1993.
Why did you want to live in Discovery Bay?
Well, the first place I went
'Cause he
to,
likes-
I was taken to
likes
Discovery Bay.
threesomes.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. I was whisked off to Discovery Bay because the contact we had in Hong Kong, who'd actually brought our fashion over from Bangkok to Hong Kong, lived in Discovery Bay.
Okay.
It's a nice place. It's a nice
Beautiful,
place. Yeah.
especially back then. First place he took me to was Discovery Bay. Anyway, so the idea of putting down 33,000 in one go, you had to have 33,000 in your bank account.
Yeah.
Well, how on earth are you going to get 33,000 if you don't know what you're eating the next day?
Right.
Which is nothing now.
Now, now it's but for me, it was a mountain. I could never. I'm like, how can I have 33,000? How much do I have to earn to be able to put 33,000 aside?
Right.
Still 8.
Yeah, and then you pay your transportation or whatever it is you needed to do. But eventually money comes and...
Yeah, but what did you actually do?
I know the answer to this. He went to Lama and lived in a hut that he built.
Yeah, I lived on Lama Island. So
Oh, you do? I thought you were joking.
No, this is actually what he did.
That's amazing.
This is a true story.
It's true story. So everywhere I went, people would say, "Hey, are you from Lama?" No. Do you live on Lama? No. What is Lama?
What the hell is that?
Everywhere I went, people say, "Hey, do you live on Lama?" No. So
why is that? Why did they ask you
I'm
that?
not sure. I think it's because I wore suits and I had very short hair back then. So I needed to find out what this Lama was. So eventually I make it on a Saturday. By Sunday, I'm living there. As my destiny would have it, I got kicked out of my apartment back then by my crazy landlady, who accused me of wearing her ex-husband's flowery shirt when she told me I can wear anything I want from the wardrobe. So of course I took the flowery shirt.
Yeah.
It was the only decent shirt he had. She saw me at the party that night wearing it and she flipped. She was drunk. And it wasn't just my fault. My friend wasn't respecting her as a vegetarian and kept on putting fish and meat in her fridge. And she'd had enough of him. And
were you a vegetarian at that point?
I just turned, yes.
You just become a vegetarian?
I just turned, yeah. I read an article on the real cost of a hamburger and flipped overnight. I said, well, I can't be an environmentalist and still eating meat. So overnight I dropped chicken, beef, pork, all the red meats.
But how astounding is it that in a city where Mongkok, I believe, is the densest place on Earth, that's so small, and you can go to Lama Island and live in essentially the jungle, right?
Pretty much, yeah. So I lived on a piece of land called or known as Hunters. Okay. Hunters Beach and Hunters. And Hunter still is, an amazing first-generation Berkeley hippie Californian artist.
Oh, this is a guy?
This guy. And he lived on Lama in the 80s and 90s. No, he left it in 1997.
Oh, okay.
And there were dozens of articles written on him because he walked around barefoot, was a fruitarian, only ate fruits. It was an amazing artist, farmer, collector. He had over 500 broken umbrellas on his land. He would just hoard and pick up rubbish. And every now and then he'd strike lucky and find an antique worth $20,000.
Right.
Ship it to California, sell it for a fortune. That's how he made his money.
Yeah.
But he became my mentor, my teacher. And I lived on the land, under the stars, on his land, while he lived on the boat. And I lived there for 6 months because I couldn't afford rent.
Yeah.
And I was just enamored by this amazing hippie artist of integrity. He'd walk around and he'd see rubbish, he'd pick it up.
Yeah.
So I imitated him. Yeah. If I'm walking now, I see rubbish, I pick it up.
Yeah.
And I learned that from him. He taught me how to make fires, how to build fires, how to respect fires, how to put them to sleep. He taught me about the seasons. He taught me about the solstice, the equinox, art, organic farming. I learned so much from the man. And those 6 months I lived at Hunters in the open, under the stars, were beautiful. And after that, or during that period, I would go to town. I was freelancing with Friends of the Earth.
Is that guy still alive?
Hunter, yeah, he lives in California now. I was trying to work out his age. He must be 75 now.
Wow.
There you go.
Amazing.
Retired.
He'd only eat fruits, nuts, and seeds. And
until now,
he'd only eat salads 4 times a year.
Most of his day pooping.
Amazing. He'd only eat salads 4 times a year on the 2 solstices and on 2 equinoxes. We'd make a big salad, you know.
Right.
That was like, whoa,
that's his treat.
I'm going out. I'm going to eat a salad. You know.
That's his cocaine.
That's his cocaine. And he was as fit as an ox.
And what were you doing for money?
I was freelancing with Friends of the Earth.
What's Friends of the Earth?
It's an environmental charity.
Okay.
So back then you had Friends of the Earth and Worldwide Fund. I went to see both. I said, hi, I'm an eco designer. How can I help?
They said, I'm living in the jungle. They said, you're hired.
Hired.
That's
straight
all
away.
We need to know. Yeah.
So I designed a project called Trees for Life. And I designed their brochures, their flyers, their T-shirts, their logos, their literature, and planted trees. And they paid me in 3 installments of $10,000 each.
Right.
So, and I did more. I designed some postcards for them, and at the same time, I started Gaia, my own company, eco fashion.
Doing clothing.
Doing clothing.
Yeah.
clothing that raises awareness, a bit like food mana that raises
That
awareness,
was all
clothing that raises awareness.
pre-handover, yeah?
Yeah, so this was 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99.
Okay. So through
Each
the
one after the
handover.
other.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we opened the Bookworm Cafe just after the handover, the first vegetarian, lifestyle, organic, hippie, bohemian hangout space in Hong Kong,
Right.
Where was
called the
that?
Bookworm Cafe on Llama Island.
Mhm.
So from that Sunday onwards, I lived on Llama Island.
Yeah.
So from May 1993, I became a full-time Lamaite, Lama boy.
Yeah.
Discovered the beauty of the island, the fact that you can walk around barefoot,
Yeah.
no transportation, and so
it's
many
still
Bohemians
got
living
a bit
there.
of a reputation for that.
It does.
now.
Yeah.
It does. It
So
does.
I saw in one of your interviews you mentioned at that time that you were communicating a message that people didn't understand what you were saying, and they didn't understand where you'd come from. What exactly did you mean by that? What didn't?
Were
they
you
under-
speaking Arabic?
Yeah.
And everyone's like, we don't know what this guy is saying.
Man, when I go to Beirut and
Yeah.
and the Lebanese are saying, look at that guy, he looks like a girl in Arabic.
Yeah.
And I go up to them and say, hey boys, what's up? They fall off their chairs,
Yeah.
man. I was with Hezbollah once.
Oh, wow. What were you doing there?
In Baalbek.
Hanging out?
In Baalbek.
Playing soccer.
And do you know in Arabic you say Katta khairak Allah?
Yeah, of course.
Katta khairak Allah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Means thank God.
Yeah.
And I told them Katta khairak Allah.
Yeah.
I referred to God as feminine.
Right.
Oof.
Yeah.
Bet that went down well.
Woo.
Yeah.
They took one look at me like that,
Yeah.
and there was a tense moment, and then they just cracked up laughing.
Yeah.
They
It's
were
just like the
rolling
movies,
on
yeah.
the floor. They said, we've never heard that before.
You
And they-
either get a bullet in the head or you will laugh.
Yeah, you rolled the dice on that one.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was a good one. But they were young. They were just hanging outside, and
Yeah.
Just being Hezbollah.
Yeah.
I
Fun
think
guys.
I think I changed your question somewhat.
That's all right.
Took
We'll
us
get
in
to
a
it.
different
I'm there.
direction.
I'll get there. So the question was, you felt at the time that people didn't understand where you were coming from
Yeah.
and what you were saying. You know,
Yeah.
what were they missing? You know, what was the
So,
interaction?
My problem back then is when people would ask me, so where are you from? You have a funny accent. And I would say, and I truly believed it, and I still do, but I'm more diplomatic now.
Right.
And I would say, I'm from planet Earth.
Right.
My God, that never went down well.
Yeah. So people would just dismiss you as like someone who's like
And they're
crazy or
There's
whatever.
some
And they
people
look at
till
you-
this day, 30 years later,
Yeah.
who mention that as Bobsy. He's nuts.
Yeah.
Remember what he told me once on the ferry?
I just
Yeah, you
imagine
know.
Hong Kong is like, I'm
I
from
know.
planet Earth. They'd be like, America?
So there was that.
Yeah.
So after a while, I learned to stop saying that. But I truly believe it, and I still do. But obviously, you can't say that. So,
So what do people see when they look at you? What was wrong with your look?
well, I mean, it attracted some people, right?
I mean,
and-
I'm interpreting what you've said before.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
Not, it's not my own judgment.
So to get to the matter, really, I was raising awareness through everything I did, environmental awareness. I
Yeah.
was planting a lot of trees on Llama. I was cleaning up beaches. I had Gaia, my company, which was an environmentally friendly fashion company that had beautiful graphics and messages on its clothing, and the packaging was all made from craft paper. So I just stuck out. A lot of people thought I was a very clever businessman
Yeah.
who had a lot of money, because I was fairly successful by then, or
Yeah.
relatively successful in people's eyes.
Yeah.
And they just could not understand why someone would be so dedicated to the environment. What's the catch? What
Yeah.
are you up to? What are you really up to?
Right.
Are you really
What's in
planting?
it for you?
Are you
Yeah.
really planting trees, or do you have a marijuana plantation up there?
Right.
Honestly, some people kind of believe that.
I still do.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Yeah.
So it was odd for somebody, I think, to be so fully dedicated and committed.
Without any ulterior motive except for
Yes,
Yeah.
and they could never understand that. And some people just dismissed me or disliked me.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there was a lot of people who admired something like that and supported it, and still do.
So when did Mana come into the picture?
Oh, not till 2011. But before Mana, there was a Bookworm Cafe, which was legendary.
on Llama.
We
Did
had
you spread out,
queues.
or was it the one place?
We had queues going out the door on weekends. It was the only place in Hong Kong where you could get a tempeh burger, a tofu burger, and a bean burger.
Right.
And we're talking 98, 99.
Oh, that's like this. This
and
was just
a
like
whole
not
page
even
of
trending.
salads.
Yeah.
The vegan salad back then, which later we called the Life Salad because of Life Cafe that I opened in 2004. But the food was just unparalleled.
Yeah.
And here we are in the Bookworm, running it, bunch of bohemians, the best food in Hong Kong by far.
Right.
By far. And we had reggae nights and comedy nights and movie nights and talks and documentaries and infomentaries. It was a hub.
Right.
It was a hub of consciousness.
So
And
people
we-
would come from Hong Kong to Lama to just come to Bookworm Cafe.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Even people coming down across the border, even people coming down from, because, where could you get food like that?
Yeah.
Are you aware of the bookworms in mainland China, the Bookworm Cafe?
Well, the chap came came to Bookworm first and
Peter.
then went and opened it.
Really?
Correct.
What?
Yeah, correct. We all recognized him when he came.
we worked with Peter for years.
Yeah.
He had comedy shows in Chengdu and Suzhou. And
He had
Beijing
Suzhou, Beijing, and
Yeah.
Chengdu.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they closed one by one
But
over the last couple
they were
of
not
years
a
as well.
vegetarian.
No, they were just
No.
yeah.
Yeah. It was
No, they were like more like a bookstore
correct.
that is also a coffee shop
Which is how the Bookworm started. Now, I didn't call it the Bookworm. I would have called it Gaia Cafe, but
Yeah.
it was already called the Bookworm, so we kept the name.
yeah.
But that was essentially Hong Kong's first lifestyle committed plant-based hub.
Yeah.
And so what?
And then
what
in 2004, we brought it overseas to Hong Kong Island and opened Life Cafe.
Oh, so you changed the name when you moved it.
Correct.
But it's continued on.
Correct. I continued on. It was a different business, different shareholders, different capital, different investment. But for me, it was still the message. We're
In
still
your mind,
raising
it was the
awareness.
continuation of that
Absolutely.
project.
And in the media's mind, because there was Bobsy from over there and Bobsy is over here.
Yeah.
Even now, it's the same thing as far as people are
Where
concerned.
what happened to Bookworm and Lama?
Bookworm, 2004, once we opened Life Cafe,
Yeah.
I couldn't handle both.
Right. Yeah.
So our general manager back then took over. Eventually, he owned it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't up until 2020 that he actually turned it into BWC, Bookworm Cafe.
right.
And now he's got pork and ribs and
Oh,
beef.
no.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It took him, 16 years to be able to
To
do what he truly wants to do. But
Right.
because the Bookworm was so well established,
yeah.
it was like a museum between 2004, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah.
He didn't have the courage to change anything.
Right.
The only thing he changed is he took the word Bobsy out. Was something called the Bobsy Shake, which we called the B Shake. He removed that. But everything else pretty much remained like a museum.
Was that a
Yeah.
dance or a drink?
It was a shake.
So what's the relationship then? Why did you start Manor if you had Life Cafe?
I pulled out of life in 7 years later.
Are we talking
I-
about the cafe now?
Correct,
or-
yeah. Life Cafe. It was called Life. It was never called Life Cafe, but people insisted on calling it Life Cafe.
Right.
I got disheartened with my business
Confuse
partners.
it with
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
own
When they are
existence.
on the phone with someone, it's like, hey, where are you? I'm in life.
Well, yeah, people would say
Yeah,
that all
but-
the time.
yeah.
Yeah. Now, the reason we didn't call it Life Cafe was out of respect for David Life, the famous yoga teacher who had the legendary Life Cafe in New York in the 80s.
Okay.
And he became a friend, and I said, David, I can't call it Life Cafe. He said,
I
of
mean,
course
he
you
doesn't
can.
own that word.
So out of respect, we called it Life.
yeah.
Um,
Life coffee.
yeah, Life was arguably the most successful restaurant in Soho. Queues going down the door. We introduced so many new things.
And so did Manor start at the moment of departure from Life for
Ish.
you?
In between, I launched a campaign called Save the Human, Don't Eat the Planet. And that was essentially to raise awareness about the impact our diets are having on our natural resources.
right.
So the message was reduce your consumption of meat, fish, and dairy. And we did a video and a documentary, and we took it to schools, and out of that was born Green Mondays and Green Common.
Oh,
They were
David Young.
all offshoots of that campaign, yeah.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they've been a big supporter of the hashtag 1 week no meat.
Yeah, amazing
Yeah.
what David Young's doing. And he's been my guest on Breakfast with Bobsy. And
Well, so I just have an interesting side question there because one of the things he's really into is fake meat.
yeah.
And you don't think that that's a way to go, right?
I do. I mean, I've been asked that question a million times, and you just gave me my $1,000,000 right now. Thank you.
Yeah.
No, it is a way to go. It's just not the way I want to go, because I'd rather make my patties from beans and chickpeas and lentils.
Right.
But, excuse me, it is playing an important role. It's got a much, much lower eco footprint. So give me
than real meat. Right?
Yeah, give me that anytime than eating animals, because eating animals is the scourge of humanity today. It's something that we're going to look back on in 20 years' time, just the way we look back on slavery now and say, how on earth could we enslave 100 billion industrially farmed animals? How on earth could we do that? And we know now because, the karma, we're paying the price today. So give me what you call fake meat anytime over eating animals. But Mana doesn't have to do it. We don't need to do it.
Right.
But the Joe Blogg's restaurant down the road and your average restaurant is doing it because it's a big market.
Yeah.
It's the fastest growing market right now.
It's also, one of the reasons behind hashtag 1 week no meat is, and it's another interesting question I want to ask you is because you were vegetarian first, but you ate fish. And someone said to me recently, they're like, either you're vegan or you're nothing. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, even if you still eat meat and you halve the amount of meat you're eating, that's a difference. I feel like it's a way for people, because it can be such a space jump to go from eating meat every day to just veganism. Yeah. I feel like it's a good way to shift.
Yeah, it's an excellent way. And if you notice, our message with Save the Human, which is a wonderful title today, was reduce your consumption of meat, fish, and dairy.
Understand. It's basically do what you can do.
Yeah, understand where your food is coming from, at what cost. To your children, to your own future, to your health. Understand that first, and then you will naturally not want to eat animals. But you can't go around shaking your finger telling people on Monday morning you all have to become vegetarian. Right. It doesn't work that way.
The way people think, it's like you tell someone to do something, they're like, fuck you, I'm doing do what I want.
It doesn't work that way, right?
Yeah. You got to shift the motivation.
Correct. I learned a long time ago that if I want to capture the 9 people in the audience of 10, I would tell them reduce your consumption of meat. And if I wanted to lose the 9 people in the audience of 10, I will say stop eating meat.
Right, yeah.
So the message has always been diplomatic, compassionate, understanding that you can't go cold turkey, excuse the pun, overnight. You can't.
You got to go cold beef first.
Yeah,
cold
you got to
fake meat.
Yeah.
go step by step. It's a lot more sustainable. And look at anybody who's jumped into something overnight. You see them 6 months later. They said, "Yeah, been there, done that."
Yeah.
So, do you feel like Man has been the biggest project that you've worked on so far?
It's been the most clear, vibrant, impactful message I've worked on so far. Yes, a lot more than charitable work, which I chair a charity called Able Charity. So I find conscious business a lot more powerful than NGOs and charities.
Right. Okay.
So what has been the biggest challenge with running Manor?
Salary burden. Paying the huge salaries we have,
which is just this city, right?
It's 3 times. It's 3 times our rent.
Your staff have got to pay their rent.
Yeah, people always blame the rent. Yes, the rent's not cheap, but it's a salary burden that's always been 3 times our rent.
Right.
Then the cost of food. When if you want to use good quality, wholesome, organic food. So the biggest challenge has been operating a business in Babylon, in the materialism consciousness, in a materialistic city.
I mean, Soho is by its definition that, right? I mean, it's the last place you'd expect to be a bastion of saving the planet in many ways. Is that a fair statement?
I wouldn't single out Soho because Soho's always had a creative edge to it. You find more individual restaurants, whether they're vegetarian, plant-based or not. You find more creativity. But I mean, people often say, why Hong Kong? You'd be a lot more successful here if you were in London or San Francisco or Paris. And that is true. But it's my destiny to be here. It's my destiny to have started doing this almost 30 years ago.
Well, it's an interesting question because, the stereotypical hippie and the stereotypical entrepreneur are almost at opposite ends of the spectrum. It seems like you've captured both of those. Like, how do you balance, those conflicting at times?
Yeah, for me, there's been no conflict at all. I'm very comfortable in a trendy bar in San Francisco. And I'm equally comfortable barefoot up at the Rock Circle in the Lama Forest.
Right.
But at some
I've
point,
never struggled with both. And that's to do with my upbringing in Beirut, I think. Remember, my background is fashion
Yeah.
and music. And then food came later.
So you know
know.
how to fit in basically in like different.
Yeah,
But there's an element of like for a
comfortable.
business to work, and as you say, the bottom line has been the biggest challenge. Do you find that? I'm assuming at some point in this, you do have to be a hard-nosed businessman.
Or you employ hard-nosed businessmen, because I'm not.
Right.
So my skill has never been balancing the checkbooks and balancing the books, and I've never had an interest in that, believe it or not. But you employ such people, you partner up with such people, you bring them into your fold because they're a lot better at running business.
Yeah.
Whilst I've always focused on the creative aspect, the branding, the culture, the integrity, the message,
Even just coming in today and the limited interaction I had with your staff, there was a kind of family vibe going on. Like you were when I was like, I'm here to meet Bobsy. She knew my name. Like there was a different vibe. I feel like I was getting to someone's house a little bit. Is that a fair statement?
Thank you for observing
I'm not just saying that.
Yes,
Like, that
it is.
Genuinely, I noticed that as I came in.
And Adelaide, our community manager, is off this week, so she would have given you an even bigger welcome, perhaps.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, I've treated our staff always, since forever, like family. And that often gets in the way of business because we can't let go of that person. Come on, she's a beautiful girl. She's got a family. But the business side says, well, wait a minute. She's not performing. She's overpaid. She's stealing. So,
wow,
humanity always
took a jump.
Yeah,
she's a heroin addict.
Yeah. She spits in the food. It's a whole nightmare.
You'd be surprised after 25 years in the food world what we've come across.
Oh, no. I don't know if I want to know.
I kind of want to know. Just tell us a couple of little
Let's
nuggets.
Let's say that mucus is plant-based.
It's organic for sure.
Organic, no doubt. Yes. No, nothing like that. But some employees over the decades have stuck their hand in the till, and
yeah, we've had that.
Yeah, that's standard though. Like any F&B business, pretty much, have had that. But is there any like particular interesting or like wild story that happened with the staff or in the stores in general?
Not really, no. Sorry to disappoint you on that front. And if there are, I've forgotten them because I don't focus on that really.
I imagine the last place you would want to see a fight in is Mana, a place like Mana.
It would be pretty ironic.
It would be very ironic.
Fight broke out today and someone died in life.
Yeah. Falafel overdose.
What's the most important thing that you're doing now as an individual, do you think?
Raising awareness.
And how do you facilitate that primarily?
I think by creating something beautiful that people actually need with beauty. Whether it's the quotes on the walls, the music we're playing, our packaging, the quality of our food, the vibes you feel. There's beauty when you come into Mana. Now, not everyone maybe pays attention to it, but if you open your eyes for a few moments, you'll realize that Mana is a beautiful business. And when you do something beautiful, whether it's music, fashion, comedy, that aesthetic attracts people. And then you add the depth and the width of what you need to say. So comedy can be very entertaining and get people laughing, but if you deliver profound messages with laughter, it's going to go straight to their heart.
Yeah.
And I found the same thing with being an entrepreneur through business. Way back, if my designs were no good, nobody was going to buy them, no matter how beautiful the message was. And the same with food. If your food is no good, no one's going to come back and eat it, even if you're zero waste, zero plastic. So first drive as an entrepreneur was to create beauty. And within that beauty, you deliver your message of awareness.
Bobsy, that is awesome. Thank you so much for coming out today, man. I really appreciate it. Hey, can you stick around for a quick Patreon episode?
Yeah, man.
Fantastic.
Thanks man.
You're welcome. Thank you. Ahla wa sahla.